Today is Monday, Tu B'Shvat Tovshinai Vov. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamar Tovshin Yud Gimel in the Mamar Vayihiyu Chayei Sara. We are on page Membeis. Good morning, Harris.
Good morning.
And we are in the last section of the paragraph starting with Bir Inyan. 10 lines from the bottom of the paragraph. The line begins with the word Goyim. And we're by the full stop by the word Vahagam. The Rebbe was explaining here that Hashem added a hey to Avraham's name, which represented an infusion of additional strength which he required in order to be successful in Avodas HaBirurim, in the service of Hashem, of refining, of extracting the sparks of Kedusha, of holiness, and lifting them back up to their source, lifting them back up to Kedusha. Hey, representing a force which is greater than the usual. So the Rebbe said, we know that Hey is also the letter which is connected to all of creation, as it says, that the whole of creation is hinged on the letter Hey. So the Rebbe explains the difference between the letter Hey as it is in its pure form, as opposed to the letter Hey as it is clothed in all the other letters. Creation was through the letter Hey clothing itself in all the other letters. That's why we have Basara Mamoras 10 utterances, distinct utterances. Whereas when we talk about the letter Hey in reference to Avraham, in relation to Avraham, it is the letter Hey in its pure form. And the letter Hey in its pure form represents a divine force which is out of the norm, from Tohu. Now the Rebbe, sorry?
It wasn't the first letter in the alphabet.
The
first letter in the alphabet, the Hey.
I'm sorry?
Amazing it wasn't the first letter in the alphabet.
Yeah. Good point. But in the general sense, as mentioned yesterday, Hey is a letter which is associated with every letter of the alphabet. So the Rebbe says, according to this explanation, Hey, and the words the Rebbe used was, the term that Rebbe used was that the Hey is the most spiritual of all letters, the least gashmiest letter, the least physical letter. So according to this explanation, Hey represents something very powerful. Says the Rebbe, however, the simple definition of this phrase from which we draw that Hey is, on which the Rebbe bases this concept that Hey is the most powerful, it represents a very powerful force, divine force. The simple definition of the phrase on which this concept is based is to express the deficiency in the letter Hey. Why? Because what's the point? The point that's made in the Akdomis, Osa Klila de Lesbo Mashosha, is a light letter which has no substance, right? It's to demonstrate how insignificant creation is relative to Hashem. Hashem just created it, it's only through a Hey. It's meaningless to Hashem. Hashem is so much greater than that. So in that sense, the letter Hey comes to signify what? Insignificance. Deficiency, as it were. Here, what are we trying to explain? That letter Hey represents a power and a force which is greater than the usual. That's the question that Rebbe addresses here. Although, according to the simple definition, the concept of a light letter that has no substance is a deficiency, meaning to say that it's a light letter, it's an insignificant letter, which is insignificant, it's a light letter which is insignificant, So why am I saying over here, says the Rebbe? How are we explaining here that Hey represents this unbelievably unusual, powerful force? Says the Rebbe, Hare mizeh gufim muvon, sheyesh bo gam inyan shel mayla. From this itself, it's understood from the fact that in the simple sense, Hey represents a deficiency and insignificance. That itself indicates that embedded within it, the flip side of that is that it has a virtue, something unique, something special, something unusual. When you say that it has no substance, that's an indication that it is beyond being associated to physicality. Says the Rebbe, according to this, that what? That Hey has this paradox about it. On the one hand, it's a seeming paradox. On the one hand, it seems that what? That it represents a deficiency. On the other hand, that itself shows that there's something very powerful and significant embedded within it. This also, according to this, we could explain the association, the connection between the letter Hey, which was added to Avraham, in order to enable him to be the father of the multitude of nations, i.e., to engage in Avodas HaBerurim, to engage in the service of Hashem known as refinement. What does that mean? On the one hand, what did we find by Avraham? That when he became involved in the Av HaMoin Goyim aspect of his life, becoming the father of the multitude of nations, what did that entail? It entailed a Yerida, a descent on Avram's behalf. Vayered Avram Mitzrayim, right? And on the other hand, it represented the Vayal, him ascending intact, not only intact, but extracting Hu, V'ishtei, Miknei, V'kaspei, V'zhovei, extracting all the divine sparks of energy that were embedded within the Goldus. Shalei Zubul Vachem Mitzad Hayeso Eis Kala Shalamata Mishara Eisius Kipirish Aposhot. Shayechasi Le'inyan Av HaMoin Goyim Mitzad Hayerida Avram Lisasek Le'birir HaMoin Goyim. I know that it's a mouthful, but it's one phrase. The Rebbe says like this. Not only as a result of the fact that it's a light letter, meaning to say in the sense that it is lower than all the other letters, as according to the simple definition of this phrase, Osaklila, and because of that, it is connected to the idea of Avraham being the father of the multitude of nations. Because of the fact that it represents the descent of Avraham to occupy himself with refining the Haman Goyim, the multitude of nations, right? So on the one hand, the Hey represents Avraham's descent. It's the deficiency in that aspect. But on the other hand, also it's on the contrary, in order to enable Avraham to descend into the domain of the multitude of nations and refine them and lift them, there needs to be an added infusion of strength to Avraham. How? Represented in what? In this Osa Klila, in this light letter, this insignificant letter, the less B'mashasha that has no substance. In other words, which is beyond being apprehended and clothing itself in what? In physicality. So again, we have these two mirror images, two aspects to the Hey. On the one hand, it represents deficiency, but that itself indicates that there's something significant embedded within it. Similar to Avram, that what happened was he descended into the place of exile, descended into the domain of the Hamayim Goyim, meaning to say, the territory where things are difficult, which represent a Yerida, a descent. And on the other hand, in order to be able to descend there, he needed that extra infusion of energy, of divine energy, to assist him to do the Avodah that he needs to accomplish there. Chapter 4 is Dalet. To explain this even further, says the Rebbe, we see down here below in the small world, which is the man. This is a quote from the Medrash Tanchuba. Medrash Tanchuba says we find the expression Chochma in relation to Hashem and in relation to man. I think it's in Mishlei that says Hashem b'chochma yosad oretz. Hashem founded the world, the earth, b'chokhmah, with wisdom. So we see chokhmah, the expression chokhmah in relation to whom? To Hashem. At the same time, we also find the expression of chokhmah in relation to man. Or rather, let's put it this way: we find chokhmah from that verse in relation to the world. Hashem b'chokhmah yasod oretz, that the world is related to what? To chokhmah. At the same time, we also find that the expression of chokhmah connection to man when it comes to building the Mishkan. Hashem says to Moshe that he should turn to Betzalel because I filled him b'chokhmah, b'tvuna, b'das, whatever the expression is, but he uses the phrase chokhmah. I endowed him with wisdom. So the Medrash Tanchuma says that Olam Katan Zeh Ha'adam, that the person, man, mirrors the universe, the world, right? So we find down here below, in the small world, in the miniature world, which is where? Who is the miniature world? Zeh Ha'adam, man, sheyesh b'chinas Adam pnimi, b'chinas Adam chitzayni. We find two aspects to man: the inner man and the exterior man. And in each one of these aspects, in each one of these dimensions, in the Adam Pnimi and in the Adam Chitzoni itself, in the inner man and in the exterior man, we also find Pnimi and Chitzoni. In other words, in Adam Pnimi you have Pnimi and Chitzoni, and in Adam Chitzoni you have Pnimi and Chitzoni. In the inner man you have the inner and the outer, the exterior, and in the outer you have the inner dimension of the outer and the exterior dimension of the outer. What is the pshat? What does that mean? So the Rebbe explains. The inyan Adam Pnimihu b'nefesh keidim islapshusu b'guf. What's the idea of the inner man? That is the soul. The soul, but in which state? Before it clothes itself in the body. That's the Adam Pnimi. V'yesh b'zabeis madreges, and in the inner man, in other words, the soul before it clothes itself in the body, there are two levels. Madreges chayes hanefesh hanikras b'shem chayes kloli, the level of the life force of the soul, which is termed Chayus Kloli, a general life force, which does not come down in a state of fragmentation according to the various aspects of the body. Ella, but rather, Shehi Emedis on the top of Mem Gimel, page Mem Gimel. Shehi Emedis Hachem. It's in a state of preparedness, it's in a state of potential. Shetihi Mimena Chayus Protis Bischalkos. That there should be from it, that you should stem from it when it clothes itself in the various aspects of the body, there should be from it detailed, fragmented life force energies. So there is this soul in its state of potential, and there is the soul in its state of actual. Which aspect of the soul are we talking about? The aspect of the soul which ultimately encloses itself in the various aspects of the body, in the various limbs, in order to what? To give each limb the specific functions of those particular limbs. We're going to continue with Shem tomorrow. Sorry?
That's the klali or the pride?
The klali is the way it's in its state of potential. Then there's the nefesh itself, which is even beyond that. But in order to understand that, you have to look into chapter Nun Aleph of Tanya, which hopefully we will elaborate on tomorrow by the Shiur.